Hi, and welcome to the wrongest of ways. This is the Kingsong S16, and today I'm going to tell you why I think that it's the underdog of UCs in 2024. So, let me tell you more about it. Spring is finally coming back to Poland, back to Warsaw. Finally I can see colors again. I felt like I was in a 1930s movie for the last 5 or 6 months. This makes me quite happy. Vitamin D. Sorry. So look guys, I feel like throughout the last years in the UC department we had a trend of bigger, faster, more powerful, but then also more expensive, more complicated, etc, etc. And the thing is that bigger doesn't always mean better. And I totally don't say that because I have a small... The thing is that UCs used to be very small and practical, and we could just store them very easily. They would be, you know, cheap to buy in the first place, and they would be just easy to learn on, like not 40-kilogram behemoths. And I feel like this is what Kingsong wanted to achieve with the S16. Woohoo! Whoa! And this lower price and lower size doesn't mean it's less capable, as you can see. So as a reviewer, I sometimes get caught up with, you know, checking out the UC, checking all of the parameters, writing it, telling you how I feel about it, but I sometimes forget about the price, and the price is very important. That's something I really wanted to focus about in this video, and I really also wanted to focus about some things that are maybe a bit underrated, especially for the everyday rider that wants to, you know, commute on this, wants to have a safe device, a reliable device for their, you know, needs. Like, not everyone likes to do huge, you know, 20 feet jumps on the electric unicycles, right? Woo! But Kingsong really made something special with the price of the S16 because they kind of make their own wheels really obsolete by pricing this at pretty much the same price as the Kingsong 16X or 18XL. So while there is a lot of redeemable qualities on the 18XL, the Kingsong 16X, there is some flaws that you just can't get over with. Number one, the weak axle, which can break, doesn't have to after 5-10,000 kilometers, but you know, do you really want to risk it? I don't know. And the second thing is, especially in the 16X, the inner shell, which sometimes tends to crumble. And the S16 addresses both of those issues while having a hollow motor and a more structurally sound metal body. Cool. And that for 2,000 euro or 2,100 euro? Incredible. And while we are talking about price, if you want to get a wheel like this or any other wheel in Europe, feel free to check out my eWheel. They are my partner when it comes to UC sales Europe-wide. So if you want to purchase something and then have good after sales and not receive a dead on arrival wheel, then feel free to use my link below and use a coupon code WRONGWAY for additional 5% off. I do not receive any kickbacks for those orders. I just have a flat rate at my eWheel right now. So yeah, just wanted to give you a heads up. My eWheel links below. I've been working with them for years, so yeah, worth a shot. Can we go up all of those stairs? I think we can. Suspension working well. My legs working well, I guess. Stairs approved. And really, the Kingsong S16 is very blissful to ride, and it still packs a ton of punch, and especially in the torque department, well, just take a look. It has even more torque than the 16X, and it just flies up hills. It's kind of crazy. That's impressive, and there were several situations where I was like, will it actually do that? And it usually does. like even going upstairs. Okay, here we have another obstacle. First some stairs, and then on the side, going up. And it's so light, so it's easy to maneuver around. And here we are, at the top of a hill, hiking on an EUC. And while I've put this EUC in this little precarious spot, let's talk a bit about the performance, shall we? Because maybe that's something that you're interested in. And really, I'm focusing on what you actually need in a city and not going highway speeds and telling you that this doesn't make sense for the highway, right? So what we have here is a pretty powerful motor. I don't know the specifications of it, but top speed is 50 kilometers an hour. And this is not the speed I go with this EUC. I go typically between 30, max 35, 40 kilometers an hour, because I don't need more. I mean, obviously, we're in the city, you want to brake in time, you want to have more torque and agility, comfort, rather than, you know, going 70 kilometers an hour, because, I mean, what's the point? You're like, you'll have so much less range. Whoa, 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 whoa. I knew it was a precarious spot. So yeah, you would have so much less range when going fast, other than going slow. So yeah, just going 30 with this EUC and knowing that I have still headroom and power and torque is really great. I don't need more when it comes to just doing errands in the city. When it comes to range, we have a 84 volt system here, 84 volt being the peak voltage, and 1500 watt hours of capacity. I didn't do a full range test yet of this wheel, but I think it'll be anywhere between 50 to 70 kilometers, like depending on your riding style, weather, weight, etc, etc. But for the city, it's just on the cusp of being enough for everything. It's just a bit not enough for my particular use case, but for a smaller city, I think that's plenty. Like if you live in a big city though and you want to have all of the range, I would go for a bigger capacity, at least 2000 watt hour wheel. But then we go to the first underrated thing that isn't talked about so much in EUCs, and that is the charger. The charger that Kingsong provides with this wheel is freaking amazing. We have a 5 amp charger out of the box, so about 3 hours for a full charge, which is pretty quick. And it is small. Like, look how small this is. This is perfect for traveling. Like usually when I had just small errands to do in a city where I could go by train, I would use this EUC because of this freaking small charger. 700 grams and tiny size, almost like a laptop charger, like a big beefy laptop charger. And then at the other end we have a GX12 actually, -4 port. I don't like it, it's smaller than the standard. I don't know why Kingsong used this. It should have bigger pins or a safer, bigger port altogether, but it is a cold charge port and we have 2 of them. So theoretically, charging in 1.5 hours tops with 2 chargers, which is amazing. Like, I mean, this usually doesn't get enough credit. The performance will also depend on the batteries you choose for your S16. You have the S16 and S16 Pro. Here I have the Samsung 50E cells, and you can get the 16 Pro with the Samsung 50S cells. Now I will see which difference it will be, because I got the 16S right now, and I will get the S16S Pro later. This one tops out at 50 kilometers an hour, the Pro at 60 kilometers an hour. And I will need to see if there's any difference in, you know, power, torque, etc, etc. But as I'm riding this right now, I don't feel any need for more. Like, I'm not riding it in a performance style as I would ride a Bigode Extreme or InMotion V14. But for what I do with it, it's like, it's great. Like, you don't, I even did some jumps with it on a pump track, and it is a bit scary. It does dip a lot more early than powerful wheels, but for what it is, pretty amazing package. When it comes to the braking performance and acceleration of this wheel, I will make the tests to the final review of the S16, but as it is for riding, it's amazing. It feels very light, it feels very nimble, very agile, and you're just willing to do more with it because it's just so easy to maneuver around. It weighs 32 kilograms, which is not light by any means. EUCs used to be 20 kilograms, but it feels very light, and it feels just so, you know, effortless, and you just glide on it. So in terms of performance, like acceleration, climbing, braking, It can do inclines up to 40 degrees. I tried that. Like, you don't really miss anything on that wheel. Like, maybe if you're a heavier rider, you will have some trouble in those like higher speeds. But for me, like, it's great. But the UCs are not only performance, they're also, you know, convenience. And one thing I really love about this wheel is this capacitive lift switch. So you can easily put it on a kickstand, which is also nice. And then you can also lift it, put it somewhere higher, move it around, put it down. Super convenient. So let's talk a bit about the features of this wheel, because there's quite a lot of them, and usually those things and, you know, my opinion or a rider's opinions on those features is not something that you have written in the page descriptions and reviews on distributors' websites. So let's go from bottom to top, not like top to bottom, and freshly charged. And honestly, the first thing is the tire, and I love it. It's a great tire with a great thread, and you can both use it for off-road and on-road. Naturally, the knobs are not super separated for, you know, going through sand or mud, but this tire is totally enough both for the street and the city. It's so enjoyable, it's so predictable. Like, honestly, one of my favorite tires installed on an UC, period. 16 inches outer diameter, or 17 inches, and the diameter of the rim is 12 inches. I don't have any dents in the rim either. Now, this might be due to my pressure, which is about 40 psi, but might be also durable rim. I don't know. I don't really want to test that out. When it comes to the pedals, this is an area I don't really like all that much on this wheel. And it's not really the fault of those milled-in studs, because they're not too bad. I guess for the price, if you want to just use it in a city, it will be enough. It will be slippery when wet, but you know, everything comes with a price. So with those pedals, the thing I really don't like is their size. They're really small. Like, my feet will be hanging both from the front and the back of the wheel, and they're very narrow. So I think those need to be bigger in some later versions of the wheel, if that's still possible to change. Well, definitely it is. They have a very weird shape, but don't be fooled by it. Actually, you don't feel it at all under your legs, and the grip is good enough when dry. When wet, probably bad, but this is what it is. There is no height adjustment of the pedals, and they're rather low, which I don't mind. Like, it's easier to learn with lower pedals. It's more effortless to ride. This is not destined to be like the biggest off-road wheel, so I don't mind that. But, you know, it would be cool if there would be a height adjustment to the pedals. They're also not angle adjustable, which would be a nice added touch. And they squeak quite a bit. This one too, but the left one more. Especially those clicks. They annoy me quite a bit. Moving on to the next thing are the pads. And the pads are fine. They're really squishy. They're soft. And I like it that I can put them really far forward so they are not in the way. There's a very small surface area to put the other pads on though. So I feel like this wheel is slightly too short to install all of the pads that you like. So probably needs a plate, but then you have a speaker here on the bottom. So it's kind of tough to mount a plate because it sticks out to the side. But the stock pads are fine. I wish there would be a heel pad, but we have the speaker. And I guess this is just good enough for everyday riding. For safety purposes, I would like UC manufacturers to focus on the brake pads though, not on the acceleration pads. I wanted to put this pad the other way around, but then, well, I have to take the other one. But then sadly, it doesn't fit so well with the speaker on the bottom. So optimally, this would be better. And maybe I'll just leave it like this for now. I don't know. Because the brake pad, like this is what you want to have really strong, not so much the acceleration pad. And underneath here, we have a plate, which reveals the beeper and the batteries, which is kind of nice. But I wish this part would be held on by something more than just the friction of the Velcro. Sometimes when I brake a bit stronger, it makes a sound. and because this part just moves within the pad, the pad doesn't lock it in place so much. But let me put it back in. You can see my air tag inside there. So if you want to steal my wheel, now you know how. Boom. Okay, put that back in, and then I'll try to ride with those pads back. Ah, no, I can't ride because then, you see, the pad will just move around. So I can't do that. Yeah, that's why I didn't do it before. Now let's have a quick chat about those speakers. I really like those speakers. I know that not all of you care about them, but I still appreciate that they're here, just for a small party. So they're really loud, really clear, and super fun to use. One of the best speakers, actually, that I've heard on a wheel. So let's, boom. Just slightly a bit of distortion. But honestly, really good quality. Moving up to the lighting, there is plenty of RGB on this wheel. And honestly, I think that's the first device I've ever saw that has brake lights in the front. I don't think that is a good idea, but hey, that's what Kingsong did. So there's RGB here in the front, RGB around the motherboard on the top, RGB in the back. So this wheel is very visible from all sides in the night, which I do appreciate. Like, you might not like RGB, but visibility is very important. Just the brake lights could be a bit brighter. When it comes to the front lights, they have a brightness setting, and they're a bit of a floodlight-like beam pattern, but it's not too bad. They're not really that blinding, and you can always turn them down a little bit so you have a weaker beam, and then you turn them off. They also have a brightness sensor. I mean, I would prefer like a street legal beam with a cutoff point, but then again, this is not as good for off-road, so I don't really mind those lights all that much. Not the brightest, but that's not bad. Like, you don't need the most powerful lights ever to just ride a electric unicycle in a city or off-road. Moving up, we have a similar part to the Kingsong S22. It's a handle slash bumper. I don't think it will hold up a long time, but for now, with a little bit of crashes, it's all right. Then further up, we have the trolley handle, and there is no button on it. I wish there was one, but there isn't. It does lock in place a bit better than the S22 from my experience. And when it comes to the height, I'll put it back up. It's about waist high, but honestly, this thing is so easy to push around in stores. Like, it's a really great experience, not gonna lie. Even though the trolley is not in the highest position when it comes to wheels in general, I still do enjoy taking this wheel into stores a lot, just because it's so easy to push around. It has a great balance, I think. Here on the bottom, charge ports, I also already talked about them. I have the power button here, which is also RGB. And then on the top, we have the display, which shows me the battery percentage currently. Yeah, the refresh rate makes it a bit weird on the camera. Sadly, no seat included. I don't know if a seat will exist for this wheel. I sometimes do sit down on it, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's also a very low seating position if you do want to sit on this wheel. All right, but nothing is perfect. Did I have any issues with the wheel? And sadly, yes, I did. And some of them are already addressed. Actually, all of them are pretty much addressed. First up, I had no spacers in the geometry of this wheel, and this made the suspension just make weird noises and work in a very, very bad way. But apparently they put spacers into it, and now it's all good. I also put spacers into mine, thanks Serge, and now it's fixed. And the second thing is, it wasn't charging.
No chargy, chargy, and then no chargy. Sad times.
So after about 350 kilometers on the wheel, there was a bug in the EUC and it wouldn't charge, which really made my trip with the van a lot worse, because I was in a bad place, Kingsong. I hate this car. I fucking hate this car. I hate it. I hate it. Walking is so much better than driving a car. Da 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 da. I had to go drive to lose it all. When I'm walking on this grass, I remember how much in pain I was over 2 hours ago in my white diesel van. Whee! Whee! Like, I think you owe me at least one therapy session. Like, I walked 18,000 steps that day. So it's a very sucky situation to not be able to ride a wheel because of a software issue. But nevertheless, with an update, the BMS works now. And by the way, update on the van, I called it Toby after I spent 2 nights in it because it's just a good inspiration from Toby from The Office. Anyway, those are basically the only 2 issues with the wheel other than the sort of knocking sound in the, or squeaking sound in the pedal. And now it works fine. So it's a great riding wheel again. All right, so when it comes to the ride of the wheel, I will point my camera at the wheel so you know what I'm talking about. This wheel is extremely nimble, extremely agile, maneuverable. It's extremely fun to ride. When it comes to the suspension, there is 2 versions of the Kingsong S16. There's a air suspension variant and a traffic jam. Right, so there is a air suspension variant and a coil variant. If you live in a colder climate, get the oil damper / spring damper because it's just less maintenance for those colder climates. But if you live somewhere where it's warm, the air suspension will give you so much comfort. Like, the comfort of this shock is crazy. It's so nimble, it's so light. I'd like to have it in a bit of a rougher setting. I like it rough. If you know, you know. And with this setting, I can just point it so nicely, and the software helps me to just stabilize so well. And I can do, like, you know, walk the dog, I can jump off of it, go back onto it, right upstairs, right downstairs. Well, downstairs is not really that nice with that suspension travel and those pads, but upstairs is great. This wheel is just so stable at all speeds pretty much. And you point it and it goes there, really. 85 millimeters of travel is not that much, and you can't really select different geometries to make it softer or more rough, sort of. But with the settings that it has, for my use cases, which is like riding like you can see now without anything hardcore at slower speeds and no big drops, this is pretty much plenty. And it's so comfortable at the same time. It does make a bit of noises, which I do not like. Oh God, I have to watch out for children. Yeah, once again, it's super enjoyable. Feel free to check out my Instagram and look at the YouTube shorts to see a bit more clips of riding on the S16. Now look, those are my initial impressions of the wheel, and I'm quite happy with it now that the BMS issue is fixed. I was on the cusp, on the verge of, you know, sending the wheel back because I was so full of it that it wouldn't work. But now that it works again, I ride again, I enjoy it quite a bit. But this is the first impressions. I don't know how it looks from the inside. I hope it's well sealed. I hope it's well water resistant. I did ride it in rain a couple of times. I didn't have any issues, but I will need to open it up to check for sure. I will also need to do a full range test. I need to put in a bit more kilometers to get like a full opinion of this wheel. So once again, this is just one video. Inform yourselves on forums, check other videos, check some other sources in order to paint a better picture of the Kingsong S16. But for now, I'm super excited that Kingsong chose a smaller wheel to build, a cheaper wheel to build, a still good wheel in terms of reliability. It seems at least that there won't be too many issues with electronics. But, well, only time will tell, and the more people will have it, the bigger, test sample we'll have if it's actually a good product. So with that said, I'm enjoying this Kingsong S16, and if you're still here, leave a like on the video, subscribe to see more content like this. I'll see you in the next video. See you soon.